Welcome to the Ref Show. It's the Deane Show. It's Deane Mohareb, former Football League official, and also Brian Deane, who needs absolutely no introduction, not least for scoring that goal in the Premier League, which I'm not going to bore anybody with ever again, Brian. Do you ever regret this coming up repeatedly? No. Or do you bask in the glory?
You got to bask when you get it, you know? It's like, no, hey.
Sinecure for life.
Any publicity is good publicity, isn't it?
Well, I would say so, and that's certainly not bad publicity, is it? Deane, let's come to you first of all. I think it was a weekend which highlighted just how difficult a profession, lining or refereeing, is, because there were any number of tight calls, not least in maybe the headline game of the weekend, Manchester United 0, Burnley 0, which is remarkable in itself after 37 goal attempts from United and 72% possession. We're talking about a penalty not given by Mark Clattenburg and also a reaction that saw Jose Mourinho sent off. So the penalty incident, first of all, for you.
Yeah, I agree with you, Alan. I think there's been a number of calls this weekend in different games where the referee has chosen not to give a penalty or give a penalty. And you could argue it either way, and I thought this was one of those instances. I thought, for me, it was minimal contact, if any. It wasn't conclusive, and I think if you're in doubt, you don't give a penalty. So I thought Mark Clattenburg got that one right.
And you, Brian, this was Joe Flanagan's challenge on Matteo Darmian. What did you think?
Yeah, it was minimal. I think one of the problems we've got now is that every week we see crying wolf, and as a result of that, you know, it's making it very hard for referees. So you could argue that it was a penalty because there was some contact, but at the same time, sometimes it's the way they go down. You know, if it looks unnatural, you're not going to get it. And
when in doubt, I think side with the referee.
Yeah.
So which the Ref Show does on this one. The sending off of Herrera of Manchester United, two yellows. I mean, there's no doubt whatsoever about the first. No, second, maybe a bit harsher. It's only in slow-mo, looking back, that you can see that the player slips into the challenge.
Still, it's an unnatural in terms of a challenge, really, because he's slid and his body's literally gone like that. So, you know, I think it's he has to react, I suppose, right there and then. But it does make you wonder whether he's got his card marked going into that incident, i.e., you know, he knows he's booked him, and it's an easy one for him.
Mark Clattenburg's performance, I mean, Jose Mourinho, he's already facing an FA rap and a possible ban as it is, so he's on thin ice at the moment. There's nothing, I looked at the highlights, there's nothing there to say, hey, Mark Clattenburg, you've got this badly wrong, was there?
There was nothing on the big decisions. I think, you know, undoubtedly Mark Clattenburg is one of the top referees in the country, but there's something, and it applies to Martin Atkinson as well at the moment. These are two quality referees, but domestically they're not refereeing as well as they are in Europe, and sometimes it's getting those little decisions right, and then that helps you when it comes to the big ones. And I thought, although, as you say, you know, we can support Mark on both those key incidents at Old Trafford, there's something about his body language that at the moment that he doesn't look a referee who's relaxed, who's in control, who's happy. And yet when you watch him in Europe, totally different referee. So I'm not sure what that is.
Of course, he's had major peaks in his career with the Champions League final and the Euro final as well. And is it possible for a referee almost to suffer a reaction? I mean, Brian Deane knows what it's like to climax a career and have a fantastic season. And is that next season more difficult because of the peaks that you've scaled, or not?
Quite possibly, yeah. It might be a motivation issue for him, you know, where he's, like you say, you know, all of a sudden now he's in that rarefied air of the Champions League, of the European Championships, and then the domestic game doesn't have the same importance to him. And, you know, there's a period of readjustment, but like you say, people, because he's one of the top referees, people pick up on it, and he's been scrutinised a lot more than most referees would do.
Okay.
It happened as well, sorry Alan, it happened as well with Howard Webb. Yeah. Howard Webb domestically was not refereeing well the year he got the World Cup final. Yeah, so I think you're right. I think it must be around the motivation and.
Well, we expect him to come back at his absolute top form, whatever. As we do with Martin Atkinson, we'll come to Martin's game in a minute. Just briefly, the Sunday games: Anthony Taylor, Everton's excellent victory over West Ham. Mike Jones, Chelsea's win at Southampton. Mike Jones, we keep saying it here, a much improved referee. There was a time when we were nitpicking with him on a regular basis, but not any longer.
I ref-cammed the game and he refereed well, Mike. I mean, the players played their part as well. It was a very sporting game, but what he had to do, he did well. Anthony as well is a very, very good referee. I think it's a penalty towards the end of the game that he should have awarded to Everton. But again, two really good referees, Mike and Anthony.
As is Martin Atkinson, previously referred to, Arsenal's 4-1 victory at Sunderland. Poor David Moyes at the moment, nothing going right. Although this could have actually been worse because Arsenal were refused a penalty. It was a clear one, wasn't it? Alexis Sanchez early on. And then just a brief talking point, penalty correctly awarded at the other end to Sunderland. This was inside the area, obviously, and Petr Cech's foul. The new denial of goal scoring opportunity means that to send off for an offence inside the area, the player has to be seen not to be making a genuine attempt to get the ball. So this was only a yellow card.
Yeah, I think this. You mentioned at the start of the show what a difficult job referees have, and unfortunately, this is one of the law changes that have not helped referees because the word intent was taken out of foul challenges a number of years ago. Because how can a referee judge what the intent of a player is? And those words were replaced with careless challenges, reckless, excessive in force. We're now going back to asking referees to judge, does a player attempt to play the ball? And at fast speed, Petr Cech looks as though he's gone to get the ball, he's missed it, he's took the player out, it's a penalty and a yellow card. When you see the replay, some elements of the media are now saying that it could have been a red because Cech's not attempted to play the ball. I think the referee got it right. I thought he did a good job. But it's a law that needs revisiting, this one.
It's giving the referees far too much to think about in a split second, isn't it?
Yeah.
Far too much. I
was just thinking that. I mean, you think how many things he's got to get right within, a second, 2 seconds. Yeah. You know, it's too much, man.
So we're supporting Martin Atkinson on that yellow card. Yeah, but not on the one at the other end. Stuart Atwell. Now we're going to come to this. Just to record as well. John Moss. A good game. Watford won, Hull 0. No incidents whatsoever there, as there are one or two that we're going to mention in the second half of the ref show as well, particularly Andre Mariner, who's in great form at the moment. So it's important to highlight the positives as we are on this show, as we have done with Stuart Atwell, who's made a good return to top flight football. And essentially, you out there, you won't be aware that anything amiss whatsoever, or many of you, in Middlesbrough 2, Bournemouth 0, just a couple of yellow cards, but actually there's something not highlighted on TV whatsoever. It seems to have gone totally under the radar, but you've seen an incident in that game that made you jump.
I was sent a clip yesterday from a Bournemouth fan who's highlighted an incident involving the Middlesbrough goalkeeper Valdez and Joshua King from Bournemouth, and it reminded me of the old challenge from Schumacher in the World Cup where he takes out the French player's head with his knee. And this is very, very similar. It happens in about the 30th minute of the game. The goalkeeper comes out with a high knee and he takes out Joshua King. Yeah. It is clearly a penalty. It's clearly a red card for serious foul play. And it wasn't even shown on Match of the Day. So I'm not quite sure why that was. But Stuart Atwell is a really capable referee, a good referee. He's come wide. There is a player who's obstructing his view. But the assistant referee and the referee between them have got to get that right.
Yeah. I'll tell you what it does show, though. It just shows how disciplined the Bournemouth players are, because they, the managers obviously said to them, get on with the game. Yeah. And I've seen the incident now, and I think it is a penalty. But at the same time, these guys are well trained. Their mind's on the game.
I think that's an excellent point. I think it comes from the manager downwards. How often do you see the Bournemouth manager making any kind of complaints about the referee, whatever the result of a game?
Yeah. No, he's a good guy. Good call.
So well done there. And not being picked up by the cameras and not being picked up by the editors of the show, there must have been times, Brian, in your career when you had fantastic shots, brilliantly saved, or you hit the bar or the post or whatever. And it was never shown. Nobody ever saw it.
It was a conspiracy at the time.
Right, but there's one goal, of course, that keeps being shown over and over and over again, except on the ref show. In the second part, we'll have championship highlights, the rest of the Premier League, but also in the championship, there were a number of incidents. And we talk about tight calls in the Premier League. These weren't even tight in the championship, and one or two referees will have red faces. Do rejoin us for part 2. In an epic shootout, a team's 11th player walks up, but he starts swearing at you, clearly hoping you'll send him off so that the team's star striker can take the kick instead. What now?